Thanks very much and welcome to everyone. This slide deals with forward-looking statements caution, which is a compliance requirement. Please note that throughout the presentation, dollars are expressed as Australian dollars. This is the corporate directory. So we have the corporate metrics. Our stock code is DTM. We have approximately 100 million shares on issue, about 35 million options, with a market capitalisation at 19 cents of 19 million Australian dollars. A summary update of what's happened during 2020. We've seen a sharp price recovery from the lows that we experienced in March 2020 related to market sell-off from COVID. We've seen a strong performance in precious and base metal markets since that time as well. The company has successfully concluded a rights issue raising $5 million. That was concluded in October. We began a multi-project drilling program in August 2020. The pipeline of projects that were drilled during that time were Buckland, Sandy Creek, Granite Flat and Rushworth. We expect to finish our drilling operations prior to shutdown in about 2 weeks. We recently applied for additional exploration licenses over an area of 1,500 square kilometres. Assay results back from ALS for the Buckland Gold Project drilling. There was about 1,000 metres drilled there. By the time we finish for the year or before the holiday period, we will have completed around 4,500 metres of drilling. We are currently experiencing very big delays on assay results. We're still waiting for samples or results from samples that we lodged about 8 weeks ago. So what I expect from that is that very soon we'll start to see the assays return to us. We will then begin reporting those. And I would expect that we will be reporting results from this year's drilling program, probably out as far as February next year. I think COVID has definitely had an impact on the processing times at the assay labs. I think also there is a lot of activity, particularly in Victoria, on drilling. And so we're naturally experiencing delays from that also. In an effort to avoid disruption in our operations, we have successfully configured our business to comply with government regulations on safe workplace. We are, to that extent, we have very restricted site access by people from outside, and all of our crews are accommodated in isolated accommodation camps in order to enable us to continue with field operations, bearing in mind that the mining and exploration industry in Victoria and actually throughout Australia is considered a critical industry and therefore has been able to continue to operate during the lockdown periods experienced in different parts of Australia. To give people a sense of Dart's mission, we have secured exploration licenses over areas in the northeast of Victoria, most often over areas of historic gold mining. To that extent, Dart has 9 areas of historic gold fields. Within those fields, there are multiple mines and even more historic workings. What has drawn a lot of interest from overseas, particularly into the state of Victoria for gold mining operations and exploration, is the enormous success of Kirkland Lake's Fosterville mine. The Fosterville mine last year recovered more gold per ounce of any major gold mine in the world. And last year they produced around 625,000 ounces. The concept the concept around pegging ground or pegging exploration leases over historic mining tenements is that we can apply modern exploration techniques and also contemporary technologies around the mining and the processing within Victoria. The state of Victoria has not been properly or intensely explored for 100 years. Dart is more than just a gold story. We have tenements and proven deposits of concentrations, at least, of gold, silver, molybdenum, zinc, lithium, and rare earth elements. Also copper, which I didn't mention. Our footprint is the largest of any exploration company in the state of Victoria. We have around 6,000 square kilometres of exploration ground within our portfolio, mostly in the northeast of Victoria, but also some further out to the east in a region called Gippsland. And we have a relatively small area down in central northern Victoria, 45 kilometres from the Fosterville mine. Of all of the 24 minerals identified by the Australian government as being critical, Dart Mining has identified concentrations within its exploration footprint of 25, or about a quarter of all of those considered critical minerals by the Australian government. So just in summary, Dart Mining sits on 9 historic gold fields. We have 7 identified porphyry structures and around 3,000 LCT, or lithium, cesium, tantalum, pegmatite dikes. Current projects so far, or identified by Dart Mining for further reconnaissance and drill testing, we are mostly focused on our gold prospects, but we're also looking at some of our porphyry projects as well. So they are listed there: the Buckland Gold Project, Sandy Creek, Granite Flat, Rushworth, Mountain View, the Dart Goldfield, Onslow Reef, Zulu, Saltpeter Gap, and Mount Elmo. They are the 9 historic gold fields. Porphyries, for those that don't understand them, are a geological formation or structure that typically offer very low grade but very large tonnage. And probably the best example of a gold porphyry in Australia is at Cadia. It happens to be Australia's biggest gold mine. Production there, it's owned by Newcrest. Production there is about 1.2 million ounces per annum. At the Newcrest mine, Cadia, they are producing at less than 1 gram per tonne. Dart's first, and I guess we're often renowned within the geology circles anyway, for the discovery of the Mount Unicorn molybdenum deposit. It is currently, we have a resource on Mount Unicorn of over 229 million tonnes of molybdenum. It is fairly low grade. We're not doing much with it at the moment because the molybdenum price came under enormous pressure very soon after we discovered the Mount Unicorn deposit. And the third, I guess, silo within our company is lithium. In 2016, we discovered the first hard rock lithium deposits on the east coast of Australia. Most of the lithium in Australia, hard rock lithium, is produced in Western Australia. We discovered the first hard rock lithium on the east coast of Australia. We've currently got 2 work areas, Eskdale and Glen Wills. You can see on the chart that there is, they are prospective for lithium, tin, tantalum, cesium, and niobium. That is at Eskdale, and Glen Wills is lithium, tin, tantalum, and cesium. Let me get on to specific gold projects. The Buckland Gold Project we originally drilled in 2008. We came back and drilled again in 2014. And we, in August, September, we completed a 1,000 metre first phase drilling program. To give you a perspective on the mineralisation and the size of the Buckland project, it sits within an area or a corridor that historically has produced about 7 million ounces of gold. It is probably quite a bit more than that because early production just was simply not reported. So apart from the small drilling programs that Dart Mining has done historically, we have just recently concluded, although there is still more work to be done, a very significant surface sampling program where we collected approximately 7,000 surface samples at 25 metre intervals. What we have identified from that is a 17.5 kilometre stacked shear zone, all of which appears to be mineralised, and in 2 different or very specific types of mineralisation. Importantly, in addition to the surface sampling and the 17.5 kilometre strike, if you like, of stacked shear zones, we know that mineralisation is extending below surface to at least 200 metres. Just to give you more, or to explain more on the project itself, it is part of the Rutherglen Beechworth Harrietfield Gold District, which produced 7 million ounces over time. Primarily alluvial, in other words, from the river systems. Internally, we suspect that the Buckland Gold Project may well be the source of the alluvial gold that was taken out of the Buckland and Ovens rivers. It's important to understand that historic mining, particularly in the hard rock mining, was only of interest to the miners in, back in the day, i.e. in the 19th and very early 20th century. They would only mine areas of extremely high grade gold. Anything that was less than 1 ounce per tonne was uneconomic for them to mine. And that gives you some images of the sort of mineralisation we are talking about. There are 2 distinct types of mineralisation. One is what we call type A. It is a more traditional high-grade quartz vein type mineralisation. The second type of mineralization is what we call type B. It is a halo effect. It is it is low grade, but spread over a vast distance away from what we call the high grade or the super high grade pods that are spread out along that 17.5 kilometre strike. So two types of mineralization, one being the high grade quartz type mineralization, and the second is the sediment hosted halo disseminated gold. On this chart, you can see some results from assay from grab samples and rock chips that we took as part of our surface sampling. This chart deals with highlights of our recent drilling program. This diagram you see is a long section of the drilling program. The larger magenta squares represent the pierce points of the drill in our recent program, and the small red round circles represent the pierce points for the drill rig from historic RC and diamond drilling. This drilling took place in a part of the Buckland Gold Project, which we call the Fairley Prospect. The Fairley Prospect represents a very, very small part of the Buckland Gold Project, and also a very small part of the 17.5 kilometres of strike that we have identified from surface sampling. In order for the Buckland Gold Project to go to development stage, we need to prove not only the existence, but some kind of cutoff on the much broader disseminated gold. So this point I'm making is that this project is really, the prize is not about the high grade gold. It is really the extent of the low grade gold over millions of tonnes. The 17.5 kilometres of strike that we have identified as being gold mineralisation is still open, in other words, untested, to the south. And we intend to resume our surface sampling early next year with some field crews to try and discover the extent of the strike. So it's 17.5 kilometres at the moment, but it remains open to the south. We would regard the Buckland Gold Project as one of the best, if not the best, early stage exploration project in the country, in Australia. I move on to our next project, which we've also just recently, yesterday, completed approximately 1,000 metre drilling program. We refer to it as Granite Flat. It's a very strange deposit or work area. It is made up of lode-style gold with a porphyry overprint. So this project, as much as we know now, is highly prospective for both lode-style gold and also porphyry copper. The map you can see at the bottom, the green and the sort of yellow areas are the areas of interest to us, and they are areas of established, at least from geochemical sampling. We are seeing mineralisation along around a 3.5 kilometre strike that is both gold and copper, and up to around 1.5 kilometres in width. I'll move through to the next project that we've drilled just recently, which is Sandy Creek Gold Project. It also has antimony in it. In fact, there's a couple of old antimony mines. It's located just south of Albury Wodonga on the Victorian-New South Wales border. Known historically for ultra high-grade extraction, gold extraction that is. And there was historically there was rock chip sampling that went 3,500 grams, 3.5 kilos per tonne. In many ways, Sandy Creek is quite similar to Buckland, but we don't know as much about it. There's been less work done on it, and there's been less drilling, but our recent drilling program has given us confidence that we are seeing large tonnage of disseminated gold, that is the low grade, high tonnage type ore, as well as high grade pods. You'll see listed there the different historic mines that occur over our Sandy Creek Gold Project. The other interesting thing about this project is that we are seeing gold mineralisation into the granite. There's been my last point on Sandy Creek is that there has been no modern exploration undertaken at the Sandy Creek gold fields. There's been Dart is the first company to undertake modern exploration activity. Another gold project that we are still drilling, and we'll be drilling on this project through to Friday, when we'll be shutting down. It is located in what we call central northern Victoria. It is situated 45 kilometres from the Fosterville mine. It is in a very unique position. This project, it is the old Rushworth gold field from which there was a lot of high-grade gold extracted over 100 years ago. Dart has held this lease area for quite a number of years, and during that time, a number of other companies have pegged up to our boundaries. Most notably is Newmont Mining, who have pegged up to our western boundary. The Newmont lease area or lease application was the first time that Newmont have ever pegged in Victoria. Results from our roughly 1,000 metre RC drilling program, we would expect probably in January, early February. Historically, the mining was limited to about 40 up to 50 metres in depth. We'll turn away from gold projects to porphyries. Dart has 7 identified porphyries. These are identified at surface at outcropping porphyry mineralisation, which is quite unusual. Often porphyries are buried deep below cover, up to 200-300 metres even below surface. But we are seeing mineralisation, or porphyry mineralisation at surface, including metals such as gold, copper. You can see at the top, Stacey's. At Gentilani is copper, gold and molybdenum. We have Granite Flat, which is gold, copper, Mount Morgan, molybdenum, silver, tin and gold. The remaining 4, Copper Quarry Empress South, which is pure, Copper Quarry, which is a pure copper play. Empress South is showing pure copper mineralisation. Mount Unicorn is predominantly molybdenum, but contains copper, silver and zinc. And Shippen Gully, we have identified at surface, but have not done any exploration work at the moment, although we suspect it is a molybdenum-dominated porphyry structure. This is our tenement status update table of those applications that you can, of those tenement types. You can see a number of exploration lease applications, 15 odd EL applications. We are expecting 5 of those to be granted to us before Christmas. The other points I'd like to make about Dart before we close up and possibly open for questions is that we're incredibly cheap versus other companies operating in Victoria in gold projects. We are very, very cheap compared to them. I think part of the reason why we're cheap is that people don't understand the complexity of the portfolio that we have. Our focus is very much in the gold at the moment, and copper for that matter, over at Granite Flat. It's thrown up some very interesting numbers on copper, very interesting. And we will pursue both the gold and copper at Granite Flat. But Buckland and Granite Flat at this point in time are our priority projects, and we've got a lot more work to do on them, and we will continue with that all the way through the new year and into February and March, whenever. I think just one last point that I would make is that we're well funded. Our cost of drilling is probably amongst the cheapest certainly in Victoria. We've been in the business for a long time in Victoria. We know how to do that. We have established relationships with the regulators, very good working relationships, and we intend to capitalise on that. There's between 3,500 and 4,000 samples are currently sitting at the lab. And when I say between, we are delivering samples to the lab every few days. That's a very good question. I think that there's a number of projects which Dart is very keen to further develop on its own. But we are also looking at some of the projects, particularly the porphyries. We are looking to joint venture, and we are having discussions with different mining companies and major investors around such arrangements. The individual gold projects that we've identified, we want to continue working up ourselves and retaining 100% of those. Good question. You'll notice we have about 35 million options outstanding with strike prices between 8 cents and 30. I don't expect that we will have a capital raise in the next 6 months or 12 months for that matter. We're well funded at this stage, and I would expect our market cap, which is currently around $19 million, I think we should be trading at $50 or $60 million valuation. I'm not sure how long it'll take us to get there, but just one really good result will probably get us there fairly quickly. We have around, with options outstanding, if we were to get all the options exercised, it would be the equivalent of about $9 million in exercise proceeds. So I don't think we're going to need to go to the market and raise more capital for quite some time. And if we can get the share price up, or if people start to understand the deep value around Dart Mining, and we can get the stock at 50 cents, I think we'll get a lot of option exercise, which will continue to fund us. Look, you've got to be very careful when you make comparisons on cost. But we're currently drilling at about We're doing RC or reverse circulation drilling around about $80 per metre. Now, in Victoria, you have additional charges, like a lot of other jurisdictions, for vegetation offset. We actually provide all of our own vegetation offset. That can be a significant cost to exploration. We have our own vegetation offset block, and so we are able to supply all of our own vegetation offset credits. Oh, look, I very much doubted that 3.5 or the 3,500 grams per tonne was from a rock chip sample that was taken historically and reported. It wasn't taken by us, that sample, but there is obviously at Sandy Creek, but also at Buckland, you have super high grade pods or small areas of super high grade bonanza style grades, and they're terrific, they're great, but what we're really looking for is you know, big areas and big tonnage of relatively low grade at sort of 2 or 3 grams a tonne is going to get a project flying down there, as long as you've got enough tonnes to go with it.